Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Wichita City Council meeting for July 19th, 2020. We'll first start with the invocation and pledge of allegiance. For anyone who is willing and able, would you please stand and join us? And today we have Pastor Todd Carter with Pathway Church.
Well, let's pray together this morning. Well, Father in heaven, I just thank you so much for the place and for the people of Wichita. God, thank you so much that you've given us such a great place to live, to work, and to be able to raise our families. God, as we come together today, I just pray, God, just for all my friends just here in our city that are especially just working in some role to serve our city. God, just thank you so much for their hard work, for their sacrificial service, Lord, and many times thankless jobs. But God, we just thank you so much how you're pulling all those things together just to move forward our great city. And God, I know at the same time that as my friends here lead and work, that it can be easy to grow weary. And God, I just pray that you just would help carry their burden. Thank you so much when we come to you when we're weary and burdened, that you give us rest. And God, I just pray today as we meet, Lord, that you just would give wisdom, you'd give insight, God, to be able to help make just the best decisions possible to be able just to move forward our great city. Lord, we just thank you for being here, and it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 12, 2022.
Has every member had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, are there any changes? Councilmember Frye.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. On page 7 of the minutes, I don't think it accurately reflects the action. There was the attempt to add additional bodies to the appointment process for the hearing committee on the redistricting, but we didn't actually show in the printed minutes the vote that was taken on the other appointments. I just think that needs to be reflected in the written statement. So I'd only make that correction.
Thank you. Any other changes? With that, I'd move that we approve the minutes with the recommended changes by Councilmember Frye. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please cast your vote. The item does pass with 5 yeas and 1 absent.
Councilmember Bluebog, can you cast your vote? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So it passes 6 with 1 absent. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Proclamations, 32nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Thank you. If you are here for the proclamation for the 32nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities, proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law on July 26, 1990 by President George H.W. Bush, and whereas this landmark legislation has improved the lives of people with disabilities, ensuring equal opportunities, access, and inclusion for all citizens, and activities, creation and support of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Access Advisory Board. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim July 26, 2020 as commemoration of the 32nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to support the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion inherent in the Act. Thank you. Andrew, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you for recognizing the Access Advisory Board, and thank you.
I'm Brian Powers. I'm the chairman of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Access Advisory Board. On behalf of the board, I would thank the City Council for issuing this proclamation. I think it's very timely in this post-COVID environment when we're all back out in the community accessing public facilities, it's good to know that the city of Wichita has taken all the steps it's taken to ensure access for all. And I'm proud to live in a community and work in a community that values diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I would add to that, because disabilities are both seen and unseen, that we treat everyone with dignity and respect. Thank you very much.
Casey, would you like to take a photo?
Thank you very much.
If you are here for the proclamation for Park and Recreation Month, would you please join me? My Park and Rec friends. Great. Good-looking group. I'm being swarmed. This is a proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas Park and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout the country, including the City of Wichita, Kansas. And whereas Park and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas Park and Recreation promotes the time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorder, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Park and Recreation encourages physical activity by providing space for popular sports like hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Park and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to child development. And now, therefore, be it resolved, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2020 as Park and Recreation Month. Troy, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. First of all, I'd really like to recognize the staff. You heard all these great things in the proclamation. I think the Parks and Recreation Department is a fabric of our community. In the opening shots, you saw some great footage of our parks. Our parks are featured in a lot of articles actually on the budget book. It's on the cover of the budget book as well. That's pretty exciting. But none of this can happen without all the staff that actually supports all of our parks and recreation. During the pandemic, we found that our department is essential, that we do a lot of different things for the community, not just provide our maintenance, but tons of programming as well. So we can't do it without our park staff. A couple examples is during the this past Saturday, Automobilia, we had several staff members that had to go back and retrieve our stage at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Every weekend, we have staff that works out in the hot sun. We have staff that cleans off the snow and works out in the cold weather as well. So our staff is out there 24/7, well, not 24/7, but most of the time. But we do have staff that actually go out there for emergencies as well. We have our forestry staff that actually has to go clean out the roads during emergencies. So whenever you guys are having fun, whenever you guys are recreating, whenever you guys are actually enjoying the great parks, there's staff that's behind it that made all that happen. So here's a sample of some of the folks that make all that happen. And I just wanted to show my appreciation to them and let them know how essential our staff is. So appreciate the recognition. And thank you very much. Actually, why don't you come closer?
You're gonna have to kneel down. I don't have to bend. There we go. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
James Barfield Downtown Beautification Project.
I'm James Barfield. Good morning, Vice Mayor and council members. I've appeared before the City Council countless number of times over the years, but I can't think of a single issue that I've addressed that gives me more pleasure and excitement than the one I'm about to address now. And that one is the completion of the latest Wichita City Downtown Beautification Project. On February the 19th, which was right in the middle of Black History Month, I made a public announcement on Channel 12 that a private nonprofit organization was willing to undertake the restoration of the, at that time, dilapidated, deteriorated A. Price Wooded Park. The only people that visited that park at the time of my announcement was homeless people, and they left behind evidence of their participation. I'm here today to say, mission accomplished. And while I was the voice of that announcement, I want to say that was the brainchild, and I want to give all the credit to Ms. Celeste Racette. And I think she's in the audience, and I think you'll be hearing from her a little later. But I also want to give a big shout out, well deserved. This project would not have been completed without the generosity of the 4 Lowe's stores here in Wichita. And I also want to give a shout out to the hundreds upon hundreds of man hours that participated as volunteers to come forth, and many of those were elders, but worked in the hot heat that you all know about that we've had here in the past couple of months. Now, this project was done without the participation of any city tax dollars, with the exception of the railing, which, as you all know, was rusted beyond recognition, was completely environmentally, I'll say, unsafe, okay, for any park. But today, that park has been restored as close as possible to what was originally built there 40 years ago or better, in honor of the late A. Price Woodard, the first Black mayor in the city of Wichita. And I can tell you that that park was just completed last week, but already you can see the fruits of our accomplishments and what we did. I was out at that park last night after 9 o'clock, and I was amazed to see couples, families, and individuals that were walking up to see, sitting down, relaxing, and enjoying the beautiful fountains that have been restored, the beautiful waterfalls, okay? And I would want to extend a personal invitation to each of you to make a trip, make a visit to that park. And I want you to compare what you see when you visited to what you saw the day that you took your seat as a city councilman. And I don't care if it was 6 years ago or 6 months ago. And if you're not impressed that that park offers the most beautiful scenic aesthetics of any park in Wichita, and let me restate that so that Ms. Ballard doesn't take offense, that includes Riverside Park, okay? But that park is beautiful. It is a contribution to the other activities that have taken place in downtown to beautify this city. And it's 99% complete. And the reason I say 99% because there's only one thing missing. At the inception, there was one thing that we didn't know about or we were not aware of. It appears that the name or plaque or signage or whatever indicating that that is the A. Price Wooded Park is missing. So I'm here today to ask you if the city council, and first, before I go forward, I forgot two names that I do want to mention and give credit to.
And Mr. Barfield, your time is up, so if you could maybe wrap up your thoughts, that would be great. And if there's,
Certainly will do it.
if there's any information you want to send us, we're welcome to receive that.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to give shout out to your Parks Department, David McGuire and Jason Gonzalez, okay? I couldn't leave those out. Now, the only thing I want to say is we would like to have the city council somewhere along Douglas Avenue place some kind of a marker, plaque, whatever you want to do, giving honor to A. Price Wooded Park. And I think this could be done for less than $2,000, okay? So if you all would consider that, it would be greatly appreciated, and I'm sure all the citizens of Wichita would appreciate it. And take a visit to that park. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today, Mr. Barfield. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Celeste Racette, 2021 CAFR and audit findings concerns.
Good morning, City Council members. Celeste Racette, Wichita native. I'd like to thank the previous speaker, James Barfield, for his leadership to beautify A. Price Woodard Park. The park was named, as he spoke, in honor of Wichita's first black mayor. This park, in the heart of the downtown riverfront area, has cascading waterfalls, terraced flower beds, and a reflection pool. It went from being an eyesore, run down and neglected, to a place of serenity and beauty. The park needs a plaque honoring former Mayor A. Price Woodard. Many local businesses stepped up to help turn this park around. As Mr. Barfield mentioned, we couldn't have done it without Lowe's home improvement stores. Stutzman's and Treetop Nurseries also contributed flowers, and Councilmember Ballard actually helped plant flowers on Earth Day. Thank you. City employees such as Dave McGuire and Jason Gonzalez and many others, as Mr. Barfield mentioned, and Lowe's employees helped us, as did tireless volunteers, to plant flowers, mulch flower beds, and water, and water, and water. Irrigation has been turned on in public areas that have not been watered in over 15 years. You can see before and after photos at our Facebook page, Wichita C2. You will be stunned to see the transformation. I look through the city's financial statements and I see so many more areas needing improvement. Firemen's salaries, public safety, parks, cultural arts. I see debt incurred to help developers like Jim Corrick's Hotel and Water Walk, and wonder why we didn't use the hotel guest tax for upkeep on Century 2 or the Ice Center. Why have public flower beds turned into weeds and trash? You have to provide for maintenance and staffing to take care of public buildings. Even the Ice Center rink, which I went into last Friday, stunned me. I could not believe what Genesis Gym owners did when they moved out. TVs had been ripped out of the wall, leaving gaping holes in the drywall. Bar stools had been torn out. Even the carpet on the floor had been ripped off of the floor. Why did you let them do this? Why did you let them destroy this public building? That's what taxpayers have asked for from elected officials: accountability, oversight, transparency. Not secrecy, not hidden development deals. Judging from recent city election, taxpayers have given you the mandate to change the culture in City Hall, to provide accountability to taxpayers for how their money is spent, transparency in deals, oversight, ethics reform. But I'm concerned that the internal culture here in City Hall is too ingrained for change. I'm concerned because we still don't have an internal auditor. We still don't have an operating ethics committee. The whistleblower hotline rings into the HR department. No, calls should go to the independent auditors. I'm concerned the independent auditor's report on the 2021 financial statements has a qualified opinion. This means there was a material exception found in their audit. The audit firm found a material weakness in the water infrastructure program. They discovered the city did not comply with U.S. Environment Protection Agency requirements. Wichita does not have a system designed to ensure that all construction reports are accurate or that the reports are even filed. Some of the required construction reports were not done, and when later reports were filed, the amounts did not agree to the general ledger system of the city. Who is providing oversight of the water plant? Who is accountable when things go wrong? Clean water is a fundamental city service. Wichita gets federal financial assistance for the new water plant, and this is a very expensive project. The city has to comply with EPA and KDHE requirements. You need to provide oversight for the water plant. It has been problematic from the very beginning. The construction contract bid was influenced by the former mayor's golfing trips, cronyism. Wichita has been under 2 boil water advisories in an 8-month period. The most recent boil water advisory was caused by an accident mishap involving an 80-year-old water filter. How did this happen? Was a contractor careless? There has been 1 death during construction of the water plant site. OSHA was investigating. What did their report say? Who is at fault? Water main breaks have increased by 40%. The number of water utility city employees has declined sharply since the new plant construction started. Why are these employees leaving? Who is replacing them? Do outside water contractors have the experience necessary to run the new water plant? Please direct the city manager to bring about successful resolution of these issues. That is what you have been voted into office to do and what taxpayers are asking you to do. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Madam Clerk, please call the next item. Yes, I'm so sorry. Pardon me. Councilmember Ballard. Thank you.
Vice Mayor. Bob, could you give an update on the internal auditor, please? Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember, thank you. We are interviewing semi-final candidates this week, I believe, and then hope to interview finalists shortly after that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Sorry, I missed you. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Consent agenda items 1 through 11.
Has every member had an opportunity to review the consent agenda, and are there any items that need to be pulled for additional discussion? Seeing none, I would make the motion that we approve consent agenda items 1 through 11 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Well, members will cast their vote. The item does pass 6-0 with 1 member being absent. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Board of Bids and Contracts dated July 18th, 2022.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and City Council. Josh Lauber, Department of Finance. The first item for engineering is the water distribution system to serve through build addition. Recommend Apex Excavating LLC in the amount of $66,825, subject to City Council approval and new engineer's estimate budget authorization today. Next item is the 2021 Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction Phase 3 for Apex Excavating LLC in the amount of $342,355, subject to City Council approval of new engineer's estimate and budget authorization August 9th. Next item is the 2022 Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction Phase 1 for Amigo Excavation and Plumbing LLC in the amount of $218,824. Next item is the Sanitary Sewer Improvements Phase 4 for Schultz Johnson Second Edition, deferring this to July 25th. Next item is the Dead Water Main Extension for the Old Lawrence Road for Meese Construction Incorporated in the amount of $130,384. Next is the Hess Reservoir Site Valve Replacement for Corn Main LP in the amount of $628,086.75. For purchasing, we have the Stormwater Pump Maintenance for JCI Industries Incorporated for $48,640. We have the Wichita Firehouse number 23, temporary housing and vehicle storage. The recommendation would be for temporary housing to Satellite Shelters Incorporated for $70,810. For temporary enclosed vehicle storage will be Sunbelt Rentals Incorporated for $99,873. We have the prisoner transport van for Rustiek Ford in the amount of $84,577. We have McAfee Antivirus Renewal for SHI International for $89,994.42. We have ultraviolet light replacement bulbs and parts for sewage treatment for Trojan Technologies not to exceed $120,000. And lastly, we have the Wi-Fi for all recreation centers for Idea Tech in the amount of $140,000. This is how to become a vendor with the City of Wichita. These are our current open requests for proposals, and I recommend to approve the bid awards as recommended.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions for staff? Any input from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the bench. I would make a motion that we receive and file the report, approve the contracts, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Members will cast their vote. The item does pass 6-0 with one absent. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Public hearing and request for letter of intent for industrial revenue bonds, Main Street Living LLC.
Welcome. Thank you for being here today, Tim.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. I'm Tim Goodpasture with the city's Office of Economic Development. For the record, the item before you today is a request for a letter of intent for Main Street Living LLC for industrial revenue bonds. Main Street Living LLC is a real estate holding entity that has acquired 150 North Main and intends to renovate that building. The building is located on Main Street, north of Douglas, between Douglas and First Street North. In this area, you can see Douglas running along the bottom from left to right, and Main Street is running a little left of center. The area outlined in red is the building at 150 North Main. This is located at the southeast corner of First and Main Street. The building was built, a 10-story building, in 1955 as the Union Center building. It was later occupied by Commerce Bank, and then after that it was occupied by the Workforce Alliance. The property has been vacant since 2014. The new development plans call for redeveloping the main floor as a co-working space, and all of the upper levels will be converted into 152 luxury apartments. The developers are investing over $21 million in the project and are requesting a letter of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for $19 million as a not-to-exceed amount. The IRBs will be used for a sales tax exemption only. No property tax exemption is being requested. Some of the improvements for the facility will include a rooftop pool, a 10th floor rooftop patio, a dog park, a fitness center, and in-unit washers and dryers, as well as granite countertops, modern finishes, new plumbing, and HVAC and electrical systems for all of the units. This is an image of the facility as it stands today. This is looking southeast from the intersection of First Street North and Main Street. And this is an architectural rendering from roughly that same location of what the facility will look like once it has been renovated. This is an architectural rendering looking north from the south side of the building. You can see there where the pool would be located. And these are some of the interior photos of what the finishes would look like inside the actual units. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures. Tyler Ellis, who is with the development project, is here and can speak more specifically to the project, and I would be happy to stand for any questions as well.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions for Tim? Seeing none, is there any input from the public? Welcome.
Vice Mayor, City Council, Mr. Manager. My name is Jason Gregory with Downtown Wichita, 505 East Douglas, for the record. On behalf of Downtown Wichita, just wanted to come express our support for this incredible project. I wanted to thank the property owners and the development group for their vision and investment. It's very exciting to see this project come before you today. This is a very challenging building. As many of you know, a lot of the projects in downtown are complicated. This one had ground lease issues that we've worked on for years through several different ownerships. There have been different groups that have taken a run at this, and it's just very exciting to see this property in particular being revitalized. Last year, we updated market analysis. There is strong market demand for multifamily residential. This project is going to continue to fill that need. We really appreciate the vision they have for the ground floor and activating that ground floor with commercial activity. And I know I can speak from the surrounding property owners, taking this building from an eyesore to really just improving the overall aesthetic and the walkability. It's along one of our main corridors of Main Street. And in closing, I just want to express our support and thank the council for their support of this project. And with that, I'd stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today, Jason. Any other input from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I didn't see a lot of shade over by the pool. It's going to be 107 today. We got to might think about that. Definitely in support of this project, especially with the history of this building and bringing more families downtown. I think it's great. Just want to repeat what I said Friday, that we going forward as we look at some of these policies, ensuring that we have affordable housing opportunities in some of these spaces. Mixed income housing works in neighborhoods and also in spaces like this. So I'm supportive of this, but just really want to see us kind of look at that as a body and maybe look at maybe some examples of how we could implement that in the future.
Thank you. Any other input from the bench? If not, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Ballard, as this does reside in District 6.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm super excited to learn what the plan is for this building, and I also like the thinking outside the box with the dog park and some of the other amenities that they are talking about doing, considering who might be living in the apartments. So with that, I move that we take the recommended action to close the public hearing. And the right one, yeah. Close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures.
I will second. Members will cast their vote. With 6 yeas and 1 absent, the item does pass. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Building facade improvements, project closeout, 230 East William and 130 South Market.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Mark Elder with the Office of Economic Development. The item before you today is the closeout of a project. So this is one that was approved several years ago. It's now complete. This step actually allows us to close it out and issue the bonds to have assessments against the property. So this project, the facade was approved back in 2019. It was part of a 4-building rehab project, over $90 million for the entire thing. But the building we're talking about today is the redevelopment of the former Finney State Office building that's now the Kansas Health Science Center, which includes the major tenant of the Kansas College of Osteopathic Medicine. With this project, they did the rehab of the windows, the doors, the clean up the siding, new awnings, and we'll get to those renderings in just a minute. But with this, it was a major project, a lot of investment. So there were additional criteria that were in place before this could be reimbursed on that. And that included proof that that College of Osteopathic Medicine would be a tenant within there, the affiliation agreement of the school with the TCS education system, an escrow placed with the accrediting body, as well as a certificate of occupancy for the building to make sure that everything was in place for this building to be generating the revenue and being able to repay those bonds. All this criteria has been met. And now it's the time to take that next step to put these specials against the property. This was a 2-building situation that over time had been merged in one. But you've got the 130 South Market as well as 230 East William here. This is the house to the, again, the College of Osteopathic Medicine. These are the before and afters. You can see on the left just the condition of the building as it was, and with, on the right there, the after, with just the cleaning of the sides as well as those new windows and the new awnings and entrances and what that did for that building. The same here for the other one here off of Market with the new front entrance as well as those windows and the clean up the siding to make that facade improvement. With that, the original maximum amount that was authorized back in 2019, it was $4.3 million. That project did come in a little bit lower. That's how we structure these to make sure that there's a contingency involved. And so the maximum assessment today would be $4.1 million for that. And so the next steps will be once the statements of costs are closed, this would go out to issue bonds. But because we approved a maximum assessment in 2019, we have to adjust that assessment to match what the actual costs were. And this is one of those steps today. And so we're amending that ordinance to set to those actual costs. We'll be spreading those special assessments against those two buildings. For the 15 years, the bonds will be issued, but the interest rate will be set at the bond sale. So even at this time, we're still estimating what those taxes would be, but there will be that lien against the property over those 15 years to make sure those payments are made. With that, I would stand for any questions.
Any questions from staff? Any input from the public on this item? Welcome.
Welcome to you all. All I'm concerned about is who's going to pay for this. The taxpayers are tired of paying. I came up to the podium and told you, I live at 326 North Walnut Street. If you want my zip code, I could do that too.
That's okay.
The taxpayers are really getting weary. They have been paying for buildings to go up, buildings to come down, apartments to come up, apartments to go down. My daughter wanted me to come here. She says, Sybil, I want you, Mother, to go tell them I have no money to give anymore. I'm working at Spirit, and I'm a single mother. But we're going to go back to this issue. Who is going to pay for this, and why are they getting a tax lien? Our homeowners are having to pay taxes on our property every year. They should not get a tax lien. They should have to pay the taxes just as much as we pay taxes, because that's just the way it is. And I've noticed that every time a building goes up or a building goes down, they're not paying taxes. They're getting by. Well, if they're going to get by, why can't us homeowners get by? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other input from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Just real quick, Mark, could you address that? I believe that since this is a special assessment, that it'd be assessed to the property, the only folks paying for it.
The building owner does make those payments, so this is a debt that they are paying. It's not the city making that payment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Frye.
Thank you. This isn't a question for you, Mark. It's just a comment on the project. When the idea of renovating these buildings first came to us, a lot of people had doubt and consternation that this would never happen, that we'd never see this day. Pleased to hear that the DO school had over 1,200 applicants for the first year class, and that their grand opening is later this month, and they're going to have a full class, I believe, of 80 students. The building is tremendous. I've had the opportunity to tour it during construction, and now that it's finished, it's a fabulous reuse of 2 vacant buildings in our core, and the number of people that are going to be occupying that and bringing energy and life to that section of downtown is so needed. And just congratulations on finishing this project. Beautiful building, and for all those doubters, here's one we can point to and say it worked the way we wanted it to.
Thank you. Seeing no more discussion, I will give the floor to Councilmember Johnson, as this does reside in District 1.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I was looking for my speech, and I guess Councilmember Frye took it. No, I'm really excited about this. Ditto to everything Councilmember Fry said. The transformation of this building, or those buildings, it has been amazing. The before and after pictures don't do justice. I think if we can get as many people to tour those buildings to see in person, just great. I'm really excited about it. With that, I would move that the City Council approve the final statement of cost, place the ordinance on first reading, and authorize the necessary signatures.
I will second. Members will cast their vote. With the result of 6 yeas and 1 absent, the item does pass. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Building facade improvements, project closeout, 400 South Emporia.
Good morning again. Mark Elder with the Office of Economic Development. This is another facade project that we're closing out for the bond sale. This one's at 400 South Emporia. It's right across from the Interest Bank Arena. This project was approved in April of 2021 to renovate this building as another major renovation. The assessment at that time was set to not exceed $380,000, but this is a total project of $1.5 million for the Arena Point office building. Again, they rehabbed the building and included exterior brickwork, improvements to the entrance, both on the west side as well as the north side, and as well as enlarging the windows to make the building a lot more inviting to the public, and work to restore the building to meet any of the additional code requirements. You can see here it's at the southeast corner of Emporia and Waterman, directly south of the Arena Point building. So they actually even try to include some of the aesthetics of the Interest Bank Arena into the design of this building, which you'll see in just a moment. So on the left here, you'll see the original facade, kind of on, this is on the this north face near the west side, near Emporia. And then on the after image there, you can see where they made improvements to where that hole was. They made those windows larger, and they made the building a lot more brighter and inviting. Same situation here. This is the full north face of the building, and you can see on the left how it looked, and then on the right there with the after photos, the aesthetics they added, the entrances, and some of those design elements they included to mirror the surrounding area. I want to also kind of highlight that. This would be the northeast corner of that, where they've got the entrance. They're still doing some interior improvements, and you can see kind of behind that corrugated area, they've got a patio that they're looking to get a restaurant. I believe they're pretty close on that, but the building owner is actually in the audience. I'll let him speak on that or any other questions you may have. So again, this one was approved for a maximum of $380,000. Came a little bit lower than that, $357,000. It does include the $30,000 grant for this because it is on a corner and it was below or within those requirements. It does leave a grant balance of around $61,000 for any future projects. Again, now that we know what those final costs are, we need to reduce the assessment to match what those costs were on that, which requires amending that ordinance. Once this is closed out and the bonds are issued, special assessments will be spread against that building. Again, these are actually payments that the developer makes on that. So it is their debt. It's paid at the same time they actually pay their taxes. So they'll see one bill that includes both their regular real estate taxes as well as these special assessment payments they'll be paying with their annual property tax payments. Again, that interest rate is going to be set by the bond sale that will happen in a few months, repaid over those 15 years. But again, the city is secured on that with the easements that are secured against the building over this 15-year time period. Again, Bruce Rowley with the development team is in the audience to answer any questions, but I will also stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll see if there's any input from the public. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in this item? Yes, Ms. Sybil?
My name is Sybil Strum. I reside at 326 North Walnut. Here we go again. Why are they getting by? If you want to build this thing, are you going to renovate the place, pay the taxes? They're getting liens all the time. I know what that means. That means they don't have to pay the taxes. We are tired of it. We want action. I have paid taxes on my home, and I am a senior citizen, and I get a low income, and if I could pay my taxes, they surely could do theirs. Why are you all sitting there telling them that they could get by with this? It's supposed to be a public forum. But ever since I've come here, it's been, let them have their way. So you're telling me, if I go get a building, I'm not gonna have to pay property tax? No, you're gonna say you have to pay the property tax. And that's just not right. We are tired of it. I'm tired of it. I have kids out in the workforce that are tired of it. They want to pay their bills, they want to pay their taxes, they want to go on a vacation, but they can't because y'all are taking their money away. It's not fair. We need our money. I want to say thank you to the taxpayers for paying for the buildings going up or going down. Our apartments, you got substantially a lot of apartments now that are being built, and you're making them get by with it. And these apartments are so expensive that nobody could live in them except the wealthy. And you need to start learning to listen to the people, okay? Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Strum, for being here. I think Mr. Elders addressed the question that the speaker had in the previous agenda item. Any other input from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Any input or any discussion from the bench? Seeing none, I will pass the floor to Councilmember Johnson, as this does reside in District 1.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is another example of a great project that continues to bring vibrancy to our downtown and the arena area. I appreciate the developer's work on this and everything that he's doing to improve downtown. So with that, I'd make the motion that the City Council approve the final statement of cost, place the ordinance on first reading, and authorize the necessary signatures.
I'll second. Members will cast their vote. With 6 yeas and 1 absent, the item does pass. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Funding and change order limit adjustment for improvements to Amidon Bridge at Arkansas River.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and Council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The item before you this morning is for request for approval of funding and adjustment of the change order limit for improvements to Amidon Bridge at the Arkansas River. So we've got some history on this project that I want to talk about. We've had some considerable public engagement since the last time the City Council saw this item that I want to cover also. Also part of today's item that we inadvertently left out of the agenda item is that we would request approval of the recommended aesthetic improvements as the project was designated special consideration by the Design Council. So I'll include that with the recommended final action. When I get to that point, the artist Dan Geegan is here if you've got any specific questions about that. One more thing I want to mention real quick before I get started. As part of our discussion today for closure of the bridge, it includes a proposed temporary fire station south of the bridge to provide necessary coverage. So Chief Snow is here to answer any specific questions you might have about that. So looking at the history, back in January of 2021, the City Council first approved funding for design of the project, and in July of 2021, approved an agreement with JU Consulting Group to evaluate options for rehabilitation and replacement of the bridge. November of 2021, the District 6 Advisory Board unanimously approved the design concept, which included replacement of the bridge and closure for construction. In December of 2021, the City Council approved that same action, or that same request. Our initial effort back in late 2021 was to start the process to get design going for this project. Anytime we're working in the river, it requires permitting through wildlife and parks, and there's only certain times of the year that work can be done in the river that doesn't impact the flow of the river or the ecology, basically from September to May. Trying to get to a point where we could start construction this fall We moved forward at that time with the recommendation to close the bridge, but we also knew that there would be more public engagement necessary, more discussion to have a better understanding of how traffic flow might be handled during construction, especially with the impact it might have to the cluster of businesses at 21st and Amidon, as well as the neighborhoods on either side of the bridge. So that brought us to March of 2022. A public meeting was held. Approximately 100 people were in attendance, both in person and virtually, to discuss construction and traffic handling options. We looked at multiple options that I'll show you in just a moment, just a summary of them. The general consensus during that meeting was to close the bridge, as was previously recommended, with a request to explore replacement of a temporary fire station south of the bridge during the closure, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. In May of this year, the DAB6 reaffirmed their original recommendation to close the bridge during construction. In June of this year, the Design Council approved the proposed aesthetic enhancements, which we'll also look at in a moment. And then on July 5th of this year, the City Council approved a supplemental design agreement for replacement of the sludge line on the bridge, as well as some additional items that would go along with our construction efforts. Just to go back in time and look at the existing bridge, this bridge was built in 1964. It's reaching the end of its useful life. It's gotten to this point because of maintenance that's been done by the city. I'll show you another picture in a moment. There's some issues with the bridge. While it's not certainly in peril at this time, there's some structural issues that need to be looked at. When we looked at a benefit cost analysis of different options for this bridge, including rehabilitation and replacement, it became apparent fairly quick that our best bet was to replace the bridge. The bridge currently has 4 11-foot travel lanes. It's got a center median. At the time when this bridge was designed, along with others, the thought was that that center median would help with traffic safety, and really it's just been more of an impediment than anything, especially when it comes to snow removal, keeping the deck clean. It's been a real challenge. So our proposed improvements would not include that median. There's only one sidewalk on this bridge. It's 4.5 foot wide, which is substandard. So we'd want to make some upgrades for that too. This is 2 different pictures looking under the bridge. The one on the left's a little bit hard to see, but you can see some exposed reinforcing steel. There's a significant crack along the length of this beam. That's one of the biggest structural concerns. In the picture on the right, you can see some of the same thing that's happening with corrosion through the underside of the deck. This is not unexpected again for a bridge that's almost 60 years old. So looking at our proposed improvements would include rebuilding the bridge on the same alignment, which leads us to the recommendation for closure of the bridge. We did look at several options to build a new bridge off alignment, one that I'll talk about in just a moment. Our proposed improvements would include four 12-foot travel lanes for better ease of travel, a 10-foot sidewalk on the west side of the bridge, and a 6-foot sidewalk on the east side of the bridge. We heard from, again, during our public engagement, we heard from a lot of people that wanted better pedestrian access in the area. So looking at a summary of options, we looked at 4 options in particular. The first 3 being for replacement of the bridge, the last one being for rehabilitation. Any option to replace the bridge would result in an expected lifespan of 75 years. The rehabilitation we looked at, I'll talk about more in just a second, would be less than 10 years. But we want to make sure we covered all of our bases. And again, from an economic and benefit standpoint, that we looked at every possible option that we could think of. So option 1 that we're recommending today, stay in place, as was previously approved by the District Advisory Board and the City Council, is to close the bridge during construction. That would allow construction to start this fall with an estimated duration of 14 months. We did look at keeping 1 lane of traffic open and building this bridge in sections. Anything that we do beyond closing the bridge will push the start date to fall of 2023 because of the additional design effort that's required at this point, and will push us past that permitting period that I talked about. So it would push us into fall of 2023. There is an added challenge with that. Within the Wichita area and the region, there's a considerable amount of highway work, interstate work that's coming with the current KDOT Eisenhower Transportation Plan. That includes the last phase of the North Junction, continuation of East Kellogg, and improvements to K-96. We spoke to local and regional contractors, and came to the point that we believed if we tried to open bids for this project in 2023, we most likely would not get a bidder for replacement of this bridge, which puts us in a really bad spot. So we have a better opportunity to get more contractors bidding on the project if we can stay on track for this fall. Building a bridge in pieces is challenging. It presents some safety issues for both the traveling public and the contractor. It can be done, but it's pretty rare. When we tried to look at costing for the same, cost estimating, it was hard to find because it's not done often. You see in rural areas a lot of times that a new bridge is built beside an old bridge, but that's because there's a lot more space to accommodate that. So again, our recommendation at the current estimated cost of $8.5 million, again, is still option one. That does not include the cost of the satellite fire station, which I'll talk about here shortly. And then that last option, again, we looked at what if we were just to rehabilitate this bridge. We could do that under traffic. Expected lifespan would be less than 10 years, and at that point, we would have to look at one of the first three options and start over again. So that did not turn out to be very feasible, especially at an estimated cost of $5 million. I wanted to show this real quick as one of the options we looked for, building off alignment. So to the left of this picture is south, so north being to the right. The blue line through there is existing alignment of the bridge, and what you can see in those, the other colors was what would be a potential new bridge. Other than cost, which is considerably more, we started having issues with potential property acquisition. What's shown as number one there is the office park. We would expect that to have to be a full buyout because the impact that we would have on parking would make that facility non-usable. That $1.3 million is just a tax appraisal only. So looking at the cost for relocation, even if we could, and what would it do for displacement of the businesses, really led us to not look at this option much longer than this, knowing that this didn't seem viable. You know, as we went through this, and especially in March and had that public meeting, we've acknowledged all along that closing the bridge certainly isn't ideal. But for the time frame that it takes, one of the things that I talked about, and I want to mention before I forget, is the impact to adjacent neighborhoods. So with closing this bridge, obviously one of the things that's going to happen, even with a signed detour, you're going to see traffic go through the neighborhoods. It's unavoidable. We're going to do what we can with signage and public outreach to try to help with that. What we have seen over the years during construction, even when roads are under construction and left open, we have seen a reduction in traffic of up to 40%. So most people will try to avoid construction. Point being is even if we left this bridge open in some fashion during construction, we still will expect traffic to go through those neighborhoods. As we went through our public meeting in March, I saw what I think was a recognition of they'd rather deal with the traffic for 14 months than potentially 2+ years, which the other options were going to take. So we did take a look again at every option that we thought made some sense. This got to a point where it's considerably more expensive and it's going to have impact on existing properties. I mentioned the concern with Wichita Fire Department response. So if we're going to close the bridge, which you see in this red circle right here, the fire station you see closest to that, just to the north and east, is Fire Station 7. They would no longer be able to provide the coverage or have the response time that they do now. So one of the thoughts was utilization of Station 1 to the bottom right, which is just north of us where we're at here on Main Street, and Station 8 on West Central. Wichita Fire Department, looking at that, decided that they would not be able to provide the necessary coverage and response times, at least not compared to now. So we started having a discussion of a temporary fire station. Because of those limits to coverage and response time concerns, Wichita Fire Department staff has created a plan for deployment of a temporary facility along 13th Street to be activated for the full duration of the bridge closure. One of the items that was part of your Board of Bids approval this morning was the temporary fire station facility, so that is in place. Staff has been working closely on 2 properties in particular. Our real estate experts, property management department is involved in that and trying to get that resolved now. We hope to have that in place prior to closure of the bridge. Temporary station will provide full service, just as the other stations do now with 4 staff and an engine. During this process, we also spoke to Sedgwick County EMS, and they advised that the closure would not impact their response times because they generally have roving units out and would not be coming from a set location. As we were going through, again, this public engagement, which was considerable and necessary, and I think it's good that we did it, needless to say, one of the concerns that came up were the folks that live in the neighborhoods to the south that frequent the businesses north of the bridge, but they do so by generally on foot. They walk across the bridge. Some of them might bike, but they don't have a vehicle to get around. So closing that bridge is going to present a considerable challenge. We worked with Wichita Transit, and what they're going to do is provide a detour bus route, as seen in purple here, up Meridian, 17th, West Street, and 21st. It will include 6 stops, so that's 12 total locations if you look at both directions. This will be installed at the beginning of our project. This service will be free to anyone who wants to use this during the full duration of the project. So I think this was something that was that the folks we met with really enjoyed seeing, and it provided some additional service that wouldn't be there otherwise. Last thing I want to talk about is an accommodation for closure of the bridge is doing something a little bit different on signage than we've done in the past. So typically, we would say road closed, here's a detour, and see who follows it, right? This shows going 2 different directions. We've decided to only go to the west, to down 13th Street to West Street and to 21st. We had looked at what might be the most viable in either direction. But the signage that's here is different than normal. And so what happens when you get to 13th and McLean, it says Amidon Avenue businesses are open, follow the detour to 21st Street. As you get to 13th and West, the sign says turn here for Amidon Avenue business access. We are hoping this promotes a better understanding and awareness that you can still get to those businesses. One more thing I want to mention about that I don't have a specific slide for before I talk about the aesthetics is we've been working close with our communications team throughout this process. They have put together a robust social media campaign and outreach that will include the businesses so that everybody knows those businesses are still open, how you can get to them, the time frame and duration of the project. So we will continue with that as we go. Looking at the aesthetic design elements that you see here, this will include the steel cable style handrails, balconies with river views with artistic cutouts in the balcony handrail. This is some examples of things we've done already on other bridges. Sweeping piers with form liners, that's to the bottom right. So what you're looking at is a cut section of the bridge. You can see the piers in the river. What those are is actually the bridge beams and then the deck. And then what you see on each side of that, and is also depicted to the left, is 24-foot tall steel painted towers with artistic cutouts that will also have backlighting. All of this was approved by the Design Council on June 27th. And again, with this project being deemed for special consideration by the Design Council, there was additional funding within the CIP specifically for these enhancements. Looking at financial considerations, the existing budget of $500,000 was approved in January of 2021. Staff recommends initiating the $5,225,000 that's in the current CIP. In addition, looking at current pricing and our estimated cost for the bridge, we are also recommending initiation of an additional $3,800,000 in the proposed 2023-2032 CIP for a total budget of $9,525,000. The art and aesthetic enhancements will be funded by GEO at-large funding, and construction will be funded by local sales tax. As we do on many projects of this size, larger capital projects, there's things that happen during construction that we just could not predict or see, especially when you get on a bridge and you start doing foundation work. A lot of things can change. So we would ask for a request to increase the change order limit to 3% of the estimated bid amount, which is estimated to be $250,000. Without increasing this limit, any change orders above the $50,000 limit established by ordinance would require approval by the City Council. So what this does is initially raise staff authority limit approval for change orders. It does not increase the overall budget. Okay, Looking at pending your recommendation today, this is what our schedule looks like going forward. Bid opening is scheduled for August 5th with an expected construction start in early September. We have some pre-closure preparation work, which includes, we have the City of Wichita has a sludge line hanging on this bridge. It goes from our treatment plant to our current sludge facility in northwest Wichita. Contractor will need to relocate that first. And also I talked about the Wichita Transit detour route. There's some work we need to do there. With getting that done up front, we would expect the closure to begin around October 1st. Project duration is estimated at 14 months, putting completion near the end of 2023. With that, staff recommends City Council approve the plan for aesthetic enhancements. Again, that is in addition to the recommendation that you have on your agenda report. The change order limit adjustment resolution, adopt the budget resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. I know it's a lot of information. Thank you for bearing with me. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Just for my own information, the damage that we see to the bridge, is there anything in construction that can be done to extend the life and maybe minimize that from happening? Kind of like how we do roads and you put another coat over the road to extend the life of it. Is that something we could do on bridges?
We do have now on most bridges, and if you saw it, if you kind of knew what happened on the last step of all the rehabilitation work that was done along the canal route we've done on these Kellogg bridges, there's now it's what they call a polymer overlay. It's a final surfacing of the bridges that came along about 10 years ago that's done a lot of good for better protection of the surface and to help protect, one of the biggest things that happens here with our climate is you get the salt and those types of things going through the deck and creating corrosion. What that polymer overlay does, and would be included on this bridge, is help keep that away, keep that on the surface, make this much more impermeable and protect the structure for a longer period of time. So that in it of itself has helped a lot. We have a different type of reinforcing steel than was used in the past, coated steel. It also helps with that too. So there's some things that have happened over the years since this bridge was built that really does make a difference now.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll turn the discussion to the public. Any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will give the floor to Councilmember Ballard, as this does reside in District 6.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Tuttle. I know this has been a really long process, but I knew the day before the election when I went to the DAB and I was the only person there that was not staff, that this was a very large project that was going to affect a lot of people in the area, and to me that meant that they didn't know. So I have pushed for a lot of community engagement, trying to see what works best for the area because it is so busy. So with the bike path, comm care, the walkability from the apartments, the businesses, fire, EMS, it's just kind of an unusual project, and I wanted to make sure that we did as much outreach as we possibly could. So I appreciate Gary and his staff, fire and the chief staff, comms. It's just been a really big undertaking, but I think it's worth the effort for everyone's safety. So with that, I'd like to move that we take the recommended action, approve the change order limit adjustment resolution, adopt the resolution, and authorize necessary signatures.
I might just add, I think we also have to include the plan for aesthetics enhancements. Is that correct, Gary? Yes. So
and I also move that we approve the plan for the aesthetics.
Second. Members will cast their vote. With the result of 6 yeas and 1 absent, the item does pass. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Zone 2022-28, zone change in the city from IP Industrial Park to TF3 two-family residential, and amendment to protective overlay number 247 to amend a 100-foot setback on property located 1/2 mile south of West 31st Street South and within 1/4 mile east of South 109th Street West.
Welcome. Another short agenda item.
You bet. The title, I think, is significant, but we'll get through the material. Scott Wadle from the Planning Department. Thank you for the opportunity to present this item. It's being presented today because there were protests submitted on this case. The application is for a rezoning from industrial park to TF3, two-family residential, and the removal of a protective overlay, which is currently on the property. In terms of the property, the site is generally located southeast of 31st Street South and 119th Street. The site is approximately 11 acres in size. You can see it on the aerial here, and it's currently undeveloped. About the request, well, the request is to rezone the property at TF3 in order to accommodate development of duplexes on the site. The property owner has indicated they desire to replat the property, and the layout and configuration of the site in terms of where the lots are and the streets and utilities will be determined during that platting process. In terms of context, the property to the north is zoned IP, Industrial Park, and currently undeveloped, as you can see in this aerial, and that is in the city of Wichita. Properties to the south are zoned SF20, are largely undeveloped and are in the unincorporated counties. Properties to the east are zoned SF5, single-family residential, developed with single-family homes, and are in the city of Wichita. And you again see those on the aerial. And properties to the west are zoned SF20, single-family residential, and are developed with single-family residences and are in the unincorporated county. In terms of review, on June 16th, the MAPC Planning Commission recommended approval of the application 12-1. There were 8 members of the public who spoke at that public hearing and expressed some concerns about traffic through their neighborhood, possible devaluation of their property due to the duplexes, and that is detailed in the staff report. On June 6th, the DAB recommended approval of this application, subject to staff recommendations. That was 9-1, and 1 member of the public spoke at that meeting. 3 protest petitions were received for the requested zone change. One of those protest petitions was within the protest area and accounted for less than 1% of the protest area. Therefore, it does not exceed the 20% threshold, and this application can be approved with a simple majority vote of 4 votes. In terms of council action, it is recommended the City Council adopt the findings of the MAPC, approve the recommended zone change and removal of the protective overlay, place the ordinance on the first reading, authorize the necessary signatures, and instruct the city clerk to publish the ordinance after approval on the second reading. Again, this would require a simple majority, just 4 of 7 votes. As always, you've got a number of alternatives. 2 that are listed in the staff report are 2. You can override the MAPC, adopt alternative findings, deny the zone change, and the requested removal of the protective overlay. That would require 5 votes in order to do that. And number 2 is you can always return the case to the MAPC for additional consideration. That would require 4 votes, just a simple majority. So with that, I'll take you through some of the images and graphics and then stand for any questions. So again, here's the aerial showing the site. Here's the zoning map showing that it's currently zoned industrial park, and you can see that that's really part of the larger area to the north with that zoning. Here's the map from the comprehensive plan showing a mix of both residential and employment recommended in the area. Here is a view of the current property plat. This is what's proposed. You can see that they show a cul-de-sac. This has been an area of quite a bit of discussion during the Planning Commission and DAB meetings. However, I just want to reaffirm that this has not been platted, so this is just conceptual in nature, and the final configuration will be determined as part of that platting process. This is the map from the protests that were received, and there's just a sliver right here off of 35th Street. You can see that is what accounted for less than the 1%. Here are photos from the area. Let's go through those pretty quickly. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, we will not go to the public for input because this already happened during the District Advisory Board and the MAPC meeting. So any other further discussion from the bench? Seeing none, I will turn this over to Councilmember Bluebow, as it does reside in District 4.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We had a lot of discussions about this. The protest area was very small, but this was a major entrance in and out of the neighborhood, so a lot of the neighbors were upset because they didn't think that they got notified appropriately. When actually you see the actual protest area was a smaller area, but whenever I look at the big picture of this, and I think the way my dad looked at it is, it was zoned commercial. So I know that, they didn't want all the increased traffic coming through there, but if there's an industrial park industrial buildings next to it, so if it was zoned commercial, I think it would be a lot heavier traffic and stuff like this. And this is similar to my own neighborhood as well. There's where they continue to build on to the addition. It's just, we do it in all other areas of the city. So I'm going to go ahead and take staff's recommendation to adopt the findings of the MAPC and approve the requested zone change and removal of the protective overlay number 247, place the ordinance on first reading, authorize the necessary signatures, and instruct the city clerk to publish the ordinance after approval on second reading.
Second. Members will cast their vote. With the result of 6 yeas and 1 absent, the item does pass. Thank you, staff. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Approval of travel for council members Brandon Johnson and Brian Frey to attend Leadership Kansas July 20th through 22nd, 2022, Hayes, Kansas.
Any discussion from the bench? Councilmember Frey.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would just like to tell the fellow council members that I am not requesting any reimbursement for this travel.
Okay. Thank you. Any input from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Any additional questions or concerns? If not, I would make a motion that we approve the travel for Councilmember Brandon Johnson and Councilmember Brian Frey to attend Leadership Kansas July 20th through 22nd, 2022 in Hayes, Kansas. Is there a second?
Second.
Members will cast their vote. With the result of 6 yeas and 1 absent, the item does pass. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Change in council meeting schedule.
Mr. Layton, you want to make any comments?
Vice Mayor, just indicate that this action would establish a public hearing on the budget for the evening of August 4th, starting at 7 p.m. here in the City Council chambers.
Thank you, and look forward to that. And I always want to give kudos and praise to Councilmember Johnson, because he's the one, I think, a couple of years ago that recommended we do this. So it gives just another opportunity for the community to provide input in one of the most important aspects of our city. Is there is there a discussion from the bench? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, bring it back to the bench. Seeing none, I would move that the City Council approve changing the City Council meeting schedule, adding a regular meeting for budget hearing at 7 p.m. on August 4th, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Members will cast their vote. With the result of 6 yeas and 1 absent, the item does pass. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Council member appointments and comments.
We'll start with appointments first. Any appointments? Seeing none, any comments? All right, we have a few on the board. Councilmember Frey.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Just in a move to be more transparent and open, I am giving advance notice that next week I will appoint Tim Norton to the Billy McCray Naming Committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Tuttle. I would just like to remind people that Saturday is Convoy of Hope, and there are several different locations, and it's actually also the District 6 coffee at Evergreen, and instead of having our normal coffee, we're going to actually go out and volunteer and help with Convoy of Hope at Evergreen. And I would just remind people that your children do need to be present to get each backpack or item that they're passing out for them. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just wanted to know, Bob, when can we look at that notification area? I know we talked about it last year on zoning. Right now it's the 200 foot, but we didn't. I think we had talked about maybe talking about that in the fall last year, but we never did.
Councilmember, I appreciate the reminder. I'm not sure that we may have just dropped the ball in that regard. I believe that should probably go to the Planning Commission to start. They may do even a subcommittee in that regard, and I'll just work with staff to make sure that that item gets in front of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this, if I can ask for a point of clarification, for the 200 feet notification for zoning cases, I have also been in contact with staff just to look at that and see what state statutes follow that, and I've had some concerns from my district advisory board along the same thing.
Yeah, the question, I think, originated when we were talking about places for people and all of that coming before council. And there was, I think we had a workshop. I forget what year that workshop was that we were talking about it, but I just wanted to revisit it. I still hear from people not happy about the 200 feet, so just to talk about that.
Thank you. Councilmember Ballard.
Sorry, I forgot something. Thank you, Mayor. I also just wanted to thank staff on working so hard and on a very short time period for the heat advisory plan that they put together over the weekend, including free transit that provides air conditioning, Wi-Fi for people to get out of the heat, and several different organizations passing out water and some of the other initiatives. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Great comment. And I just would add to that for a point of privilege. The Wichita Eagle, I think, did an outstanding job today. There was an article, and they listed every one of our recreation centers, our parks, just incredible amount of detail that far beyond even what we were able to provide yesterday during the media briefing. So kudos to them, and I encourage anybody who wants more information to check that article out. Seeing no additional comments, we will go into executive session. So I move that the City Council recess into executive session for 15 minutes to receive information about a civil case pursuant to KSI 754319 for legal consultation with city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, pending litigation, legal advice, and to project the attorney-client privilege and the public interest. The executive session will begin at 10:30, and will end at 10:45, and the meeting will resume in council chambers. Is there a second?
Second.
Members will cast their vote. With the result of 6 yeas and 1 absent, the motion does pass, and we will go into executive session, returning at 10:45. Thank you.